Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We are excited to walk you through some tools, tips, and best practices to help you sell digital more confidently and to make your campaigns more successful from start to finish. Before we dive in, I just want to quickly introduce the team and what we each focus on. I'm Abby. I'm one of the directors of commercial production and your Cumulus Concierge project manager. My job is to answer your questions, schedule conference calls, ensure that all your communications make it back to the team and that you get what you need as quickly as possible. So if you ever need anything from our team, please reach out directly to support@cumuluscreativeconcierge.com. While we go through the webinar, if there are any questions, you can throw them in the chat. We'll do Q&A at the end. Danielle?
Oh, hi. I'm Danielle. I'm the digital design director. I graduated from High Point with a graphic design major, and I've been with the company coming up on 7 years in September. Dylan.
Hi, I'm Dylan. You might see me on a conference call, but I'm one of the people that will be putting together your graphics, your videos. I've been here for just about a year now. Before that, I worked with Hubbard Radio for about 8 years, doing all of their video productions in the Seattle market. And then moved over here to help out with what we do for Cumulus and their digital needs. Anyway, that's a basic little introduction there.
All right. Soon we are also going to hear from Trace Bailey, one of our standout AEs. He's going to show you how he is winning with digital and turning great creative into real revenue. So let's get started. The first question is for my team. So team, from what you're seeing, how have client requests evolved recently when it comes to digital? Are you noticing any trends in terms of format preference, like static versus animated versus video?
Yeah, so I think what we still see most of is just basic display ads, probably with social media sizes figured into that equation a lot of the time. And then your standard OTT ads in 15 and 30 seconds. Like that's still the bread and butter. I think it's one of those things that it's just always going to work. Like there's other trends that come in, like short form social media video. We saw the TikTok thing. Vine was a thing where 6-second videos were a thing, but that's a thing in the past. These things are here to stay. We do get HTML sprinkled in there for dynamic ads. We see some GIF requests, but most of what we were fulfilling is still those static display graphics and videos in a 15 or 30 second. Now, are there trends outside of what we do? Yes, of course. So, I mean, social media is obviously a thing that's going to be growing into the future. I think that's kind of something that's here to stay. So, but as of now, we're not doing a ton of those like vertical social media videos. That might be too, just because depending on the clients we're working with, maybe they don't have the assets to make those kind of organic looking social media videos that you kind of, when you close your mind and imagine scrolling through a feed, like that's what you're seeing. So I think that might be part of it. But like I said, most of what we do is display graphics, videos, and then the other stuff is kind of sprinkled on top.
All right, now I am really excited to introduce Trace Bailey, the Regional Digital Sales Manager for Abbey Lane, Amarillo, and Wichita Falls. He's also a great example of someone who's really winning with digital. By leaning into the urgency of these time-sensitive campaigns, he's closing big sales by delivering quick, high-quality creative with the help of our team. So Trace, first question for you is, what elements do you focus on to make your campaigns consistently effective for clients?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and thanks for having me share some stuff. I think what happens in the digital world often is that clients do make the same mistake that they make when they use outdoor billboards. They try to use that creative to sell their product when that's really not the goal. I mean, the goal of a digital ad is to drive people to their digital storefront, their website. And so creating an ad that is compelling to make the person that sees that ad think to themselves, "Ooh, I need to know more about this," to click on it. And so we try to take the who, what, when, and where off of it. Convince these clients you don't need your address on there, you don't need your phone number, you don't need to put your website link on there. Let's say something on this ad that's going to be compelling enough where that end user sees it, clicks on it, and ends up on your website. And that starts with the question of why. Why should somebody care about this ad? And so we focus on that, asking clients all the time, what is different about you? Why should somebody care when they see this ad? And so by doing that and convincing them that it's a lot like fishing, we tell clients all the time that a digital ad is the bait on the hook, and their website's the net that pulls the fish into the boat. That's what we always tell them. And by talking to them about that, we can get them off of this whole idea of, they typically want all of this. Well, you can't put all that on a digital ad. Try that on the 320 by 50 mobile size. It just doesn't work. So what can you say to make somebody compelled to click on that ad? So that's what we focus on. What is your why, essentially?
Great. Now, you sort of went over this a little bit already, but we'll ask again, what's your approach to developing creative that not only looks great, but actually drives results?
Yeah. So I think what's happened, I've been in the advertising market 30 plus years now. And so I used to see this when I was a market manager in radio. I used to see this when I was a market manager in television. You have account executives sometimes that get so excited about making the sale that not enough time is spent on creative. And so advertising always has and always will be about three things: reach, frequency, and message. If you can handle those three things, and with the technology we have today to target exactly who we want to target, reach is, we can do it better than anybody in any industry. We can do it better because we can reach the right people. We can build campaigns with frequency. What oftentimes happens is that we get that done and then we kind of unintentionally cut corners on the creative. So having those discussions from the very beginning, starting with the message with the client. What is it that you're trying to promote? What is your sore spot as a business? How are you trying to grow? And once we know that, what the creative is going to somewhat be, then we can make sure that we're reaching the right people for that message. And so creative is kind of on our brain the whole time with that client. And so that we can really make sure that the message that we're sending to these right people, they're going to see this ad multiple times, that this message is something that is going to be meaningful to them. Sometimes it's hard because clients are, as everybody knows, they're sometimes difficult to kind of break through in their mind. And so you have to really establish that trust with them that, this ad is not going to work. If this is what we say, and being willing to say, this ad is not going to work. This is not going to have the success you want. It really needs to be this, and really have a creative think tank with. So if you're an AE and you have a digital sales manager, you have your client, all getting together and having a creative call, and so you have this call about putting the campaign together, and then you just kind of throw the creative together. Well, if you don't have all three things, reach, frequency, and message, that's compelling, you miss one of those things, you're destined for failure. So making sure that all three are equally important in your mind is essential.
Now, what are you doing to keep clients engaged and coming back for more digital campaigns?
For us, I utilize our matchback report stuff with Bridge here at Cumulus. And so this ability to have very clear expectations of what with the client, right? So how are you going to measure results is a question that's extremely important from the get-go. because if you don't ask that question, then you could have an issue. So for example, working with a car dealer, and let's say they're going to spend $5,000 a month, and we come back with our matchback report and we've sold 5 cars for the month. Well, on our end, we may be pretty excited about that, knowing that the average car deal makes about $2,000 for that dealership, right? So we may be pretty excited about that. $5,000 in ad spend, $10,000 in revenue. They should be pretty stoked about that. Well, what if their expectations were that you were going to be able to sell 20 cars for them and you've only sold 5? So you're excited, they're mad. So, having that question as part of your needs analysis, as part of your discussion for this campaign, how are you going to measure expectations? What are you expecting to see off of this? Well, then you can make sure that you deliver on that, or talk them down. If they're spending 5 and they think they should be getting 50 car deals, you can say, oh no, I mean, if you want to get 50 car deals, you need to be spending about 25,000. Just being open and honest with them so that you do meet expectations. But the matchback report showing these clients the results that they're getting allows us to have a lot of success with the renewals.
Now, do you have any advice for other AEs who want to step up their digital game?
Yeah. So I've actually done some training for Cumulus at the national level on this very question. So if you want to be better at selling digital, you have to stop selling digital. That's kind of weird to hear, but if you want to be better at digital, you have to stop selling digital and you have to start selling audiences. Don't get so wrapped up in tactics and all of the stuff that comes in the digital world. You have the ability today in the digital world to put together an audience for your client. And if you focus on that audience and less on, making a digital sale, that's what clients get excited about. If you have the ability today, if a client is looking for adults 35 to 65 with a household income of $57,000 and up and blah, blah, all the different data points, you could sell that audience. And when you start selling audiences and stop selling digital, that's when things turn for account executives. Because when you talk to a client about, I can do these banner ads and Facebook, most of them, it's over their head. But one thing they do understand is I can put your ad in front of 27,206 people that very much match the person you're trying to reach. And out of that 27,206 people, what kind of conversion rate is going to be impactful for your business? Don't use 10%. Don't even use 1%. You don't have to. If you look at an audience of say 27,000, what if you're able to convert 0.5% of that? Just do the math. It's going to make a massive difference in their audience. And so you're able to talk to them about this audience that they're trying to reach that will make a difference in their business. And if you do the creative right, people are going to click on it. And you look at the technology that Cumulus has today in terms of being able to target identical people, our click-through rates well outperform the industry. So keeping an eye on that. Click-through rate does not always equal return on investment, but let me tell you this, bad click-through rate usually signals disaster, right? So checking your dashboards, making sure that the campaign is delivering right, the click-through rate is performing as it should. You do all those things and really super serve a client, and you will grow. I mean, I got here almost 2 years ago, and these three markets that I have in 2023 built $300,000 combined. Think about that. 3 cities, 3 cities, pretty solid. At least Abbey Lane is the smallest city of the 3, which I guess Wichita Falls is, right around a little over 100,000 people. So we got 3 of those. And this year we're pacing to finish at 1.3 million in 2 years' time. So if you stop selling digital and start selling audiences, I promise you will sell a heck of a lot more, and you will also retain a lot more. I think you guys all know, and sorry to be a little long on this one, Abby, because I'm actually super passionate about that question. You know, one thing that happens in the digital world is there seems to be a lot of attrition. You know, the two companies I was managing at before I came to Cumulus, that's one thing that drove me crazy is controlling attrition. There's so much churn in the digital world. And with the technology that we have today, you can mitigate that, you know, by doing all these things I've talked about: sell audiences, manage expectations. You know, gosh, what an incredible opportunity we have to have free creative at our disposal, and being able to really build some beautiful things. You know, one thing that Abby and Dylan, that you don't know, you know, when I'm meeting with a client, of course, as a regional digital sales manager working 3 markets, I do majority of my stuff via Teams, right? On video calls. Well, I'm able to share my screen and I'm able to show clients multiple examples of stuff that you guys have built for us. You know, when they ask about what's our ad going to look like, and I can go, well, it can look anything like these, and I can show them all this. So not only are we utilizing you guys for creative that's helping us sell campaigns, but then, you know, we're also able to show these clients what the potential could be, and how great the product is that you guys are giving us. So if you do all those things, you will win. It's inevitable. You won't be able to lose if you do those things.
Thank you for your time, Trace. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
sure, anytime.
Now, as you mentioned, we all know that the creative can make or break a campaign. Dylan and Danielle have seen what works and what doesn't when it comes to building effective digital ads. So Danielle, from your perspective, what makes a digital ad truly effective, and what are the must-haves that you need from AEs to build a campaign that really performs?
So definitely providing a clear call to action, a short slogan that's strong versus paragraphs of information about the company can be really helpful when we're building out. Less copy is better because we can make it bigger, it can be more legible, and it's just overall more powerful. I do have a article that I wanted to share that I think really shows and explains what can make a successful banner. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. So first, don't ask people to click and tap, especially on these smaller ads. It's redundant and it's just, a lot of people aren't going to do it. So it's better to have something like a bigger logo to fill that space. Fewer words. I kind of mentioned this, but even this article says 5 words max. It's just more successful, especially on these smaller ads. And we kind of get submissions that are heavier copy, and likely you can cut it down and it will end up making a more successful ad. Legibility. Here's an example right here. I mean, you can't even read some of this, and a lot of reps, you know, they really want to cram in a lot of information, but on these small ads, it's just more successful to keep it short and simple so someone can quickly look at it and know what it's about. Here, you're not going to convince anyone of anything new on a 320 by 50. So these are clear examples. 4 words, you see the brand identity, you know it's for M&M. It's simple, but you get the point of the ad just by quickly looking at it. That, I think, is a really successful ad. Decluttering. So here's an example of trying to cram a lot of information to a really small ad. You can barely read it. It's jammed. I mean, it doesn't call to me. Removing so much of this would just make such a more successful ad, and you can barely even read like the logo here. So it's just adding so much copy that ends up just being illegible. So definitely keeping it more simple, I think, is a great way to make it more successful. Here's example of just that, clutter-free ads, very simple, to the point, it looks clean, It's easy to tell the purpose of the ad, the brand. That's the article. So that's what I got for that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Danielle. So, Dylan, what, in your opinion, makes a good submission, both technically and creatively? And what are sort of the key elements that AEs should always include to set a campaign up for success?
I was really trying not to stay muted. And what I was saying is, what I really like about that ad is that article is that article very specifically focuses on the small mobile banner size. It's talking about the 320 by 50, which is the smallest size that we make for most of our display campaigns. And that information is really good, but I think that information is also very applicable to every other graphic, right? Is just thinking less is more always, right? How can we say this in fewer words? How can we make the message more clear? And I will also share my screen here just to show a couple things a little bit more here. Oh no, that is my desktop. Nobody wants to see that. I'll hide it with this. But I downloaded all these example ads just to it's interesting when you download this and you open it, you realize that this is the actual size of the ad, right? Of course, if we're streaming, you might not see this necessarily as clear, but I can tell you on my screen, it's not super clear, right? There's just so much going on here with this Papa John's ad. If you knew it was a Papa John's ad, even, right? And then you look at this Nike skateboarding, their Nike skateboard line of shoes, very clear what they're advertising here. You know it's Nike. You know they got this new shoe. Like that's what's important. Of course, you always have the luxury of it's Nike, so the brand awareness is already there. But they've done so many campaigns to kind of earn that, right? So that's kind of, I guess that's our goal, right? We're trying to work to that point. But all that to say is, I think this information is really applicable into kind of what we do too. So I just downloaded some stuff that we help with, like Boost Mobile, for example. Like this is a slightly bigger ad, but even a bigger ad like this, the copy is very limited, right? You're only talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words that are big and bold. And of course, they have the little visit your Boost Mobile store down here, right? But ultimately, you don't have any more words on this ad than the small size. So then you think about, okay, we can turn this campaign and it will really read just as loud on that small display size. Another one here is we have like the 300 and 250 here. Again, I think this is 7 or 8 words here. Very clear what we're advertising here. And then we bring it down to the small size, the ad works, right? It's the logo is really clear. We got a lawnmower and we got their little slogan. But of course, if you did find a way to make this just a little bit smaller of a few less words, even, what if it just said big boy toys, right? That's all you needed to say, big boy toys, a lawnmower logo, right? Maybe that's even better, right? So always just thinking, how can we say what we're saying in less words? Now for the actual technical side, I guess, of the submission, because that's kind of what I was leading into here, is going back to the Papa John's ad is a great example of this. Is this logo just doesn't work on this size, right? Of course, not every client we work with is going to have every orientation of logo, vertical, stacked, horizontally oriented, that's going to fit for every application. But having a nice high resolution PNG that's transparent, that we can really work with to make the brand very obvious when it comes down to the smallest size or the biggest size, is going to just be the most ideal thing. And maybe this is something that when when we go through this process, you realize, oh, my client really could use some help in that department too. Maybe they need to go get extra, like they need to have some more logo work done if that's something to help their digital presence, right? So maybe we can use this as a kind of a learning experience to, I guess, better serve our clients. Just like high resolution logos, high resolution assets, right? So having a good high quality image of the product you're trying to sell, so it can be displayed on the big size and the small size. More resolution is never going to be a bad thing when we're looking at those assets, and we love to see those high pixel counts when we see those assets on our side. Of course, an easy way to check that is, for example, the proof size that we send, the 300 by 250, this rectangular size is 300 250. So if your image is at least that many pixels or more, that's kind of a great benchmark, right? If the image itself is smaller than that, it's not going to scale up and look as sharp as it would if it was a bigger image that we're scaling down. And another point with just image files is sometimes you see that we're doing these ads both horizontally and vertically. And sometimes when a client only has so many assets to work with, that image might not look as great on this vertical ad as they would the horizontal one, right? Just because you have to zoom in more to fill up this ad. So you might have to look at the image smaller and it take up less space. So again, just having a variety of images that are nice and big that show off whatever it is that we're showing. So sometimes whoever took the photo was just a little too close to the subject. So you don't have a lot of room to crop around it, right? And then another point I noticed on this ad before we move away from this and on to the next part is this point of legibility again. This point I thought was really smart is, and when I'm doing those small display ads, I'm always putting the words in a size 12 font first, just to see approximately what it's going to look like at that size, because that's the minimum you want to use. If you can go bigger, that's better. And again, this is why there's going to be that word limit, because you start getting bigger, you're not going to have a lot of room for anything else. And why I think this is also important is now that our phone screens are becoming even higher resolution, which is where you're going to be viewing these mobile ads, you actually are going to start needing bigger and bigger fonts, because as there's more pixels on your phone, a size 12 font is actually kind of getting smaller, right? So again, the louder and prouder that we can make these small banners, the better. Now moving on to just some other technical things. We just wanted to highlight a little bit about HTML and like GIFs, for example, because sometimes we want to be able to show like a car advertisement that has multiple cars they have on sale, right? So depending on the situation, maybe a GIF is what you want to flip through those cars, or you can use an HTML ad, which might be just a more efficient file format to do that movement. We've ran into some trouble recently because of GIFs being kind of an inefficient file format. It can be hard to compress certain GIFs to be the recommended file size to run for a campaign. And we just kind of wanted to highlight that here, just to know that there's limitations to these file types on the technical end. The smaller sizes are going to be fine. But when you get into those bigger sizes, even the 300 by 250, even though it seems like a small ad, it's actually a lot of pixels. It's, I think, tens of thousands of pixels, which is a lot of data when you have an image with a lot of colors. So it's very hard to compress that down into that, I think it might be 500 kilobytes or something, that limit, and without really hindering the quality of the ad, it's just hard to fit it in. And if you really wanted a GIF or something, there might be a different way to achieve an ad that is still attention grabbing. We just might have to do it in a different way. And that's where we introduce like HTML is a much more efficient. So you might be able to achieve the same ad in with an HTML. I have one example here of one we did today. So I just wanted to show, again, HTMLs are kind of quirky. It's not like a JPEG that you just click on it and it opens. So you got to unzip the file here. We open the folder and then we look for this index.html file. We can open with a browser of our choice. I'm going to open it in Chrome so I can move it over here. And then I'm going to move it to this screen here. So I'm going to refresh this, I think, so it plays again. And oftentimes when reps haven't done a lot of the HTMLs, they come back and say, hey, why is it so blurry? And it's because this is a 300 by 250 ad right here. And we're looking at it way bigger than it's ever going to be seen by anybody. And that's just because we opened it in the browser like this. So what we can do is, I'm going to have my windows bigger than, pardon me here. What we're going to do is we're just going to drag our browser and shrink it down to its real size. And it will keep shrinking until it's the real size. Now it looks much better. We can refresh it and it plays again. The dog's beautiful in his sharp image quality, beautiful self. So that's just to highlight the differences between what these different file types can do. And we'll try to communicate that to you if we see a problem, because obviously the ever-changing landscape of digital advertising it's kind of a moving target to figure out the right thing to do and what's going to work, and is this campaign going to work in all the different sizes and that sort of thing. I think that's, from a technical side, I think that's just good assets, right? That's what we're looking for.
All right, thank you, Dylan.
Yeah.
Now, AI is obviously a hot topic right now, but is the team using AI generated art in our creative, and can you tell us why or why not?
The short answer is pretty much no. This isn't like 100% like never use. We're like, the technology is here to stay. Like, to a degree, I think we're all kind of embracing it in one way or another. We're trying to be super careful about AI, though, especially in our business, because it is a very important thing, from a voice side of things all the way to doing digital art or whatever, right? And it has its place. Like, have we used it? Yeah, I think I used it to generate like a background of a road once, because that's what we needed to do in an ad, right? Where we have to be careful is that AI is really good about taking other people's artwork, and you'll never be wiser to it until it's actually a problem, right? And I think we just want to avoid that altogether as much as possible. So the one thing on this topic is we just don't really, we ask everybody not to send us AI images to use in a campaign, please. Just because we can't really, it's very hard to track the usage rights of that, right? When you look at any, some are more obvious than others. Obviously, sometimes you might generate something, and if it has Mickey Mouse in it, you're very aware that that is Disney's character, right? Some examples might be a little harder to pinpoint, but you never know who drew that picture that AI was inspired from to create that image, right? Now, there's great ways to use AI that can still be helpful without trying to generate an image of a dog in the swimming pool. That might not be the best example, but and I have two examples here. One was we got an example that a rep sent us to kind of inspire, and it's like, oh, something like this, which is great. Like that's a great use of AI is here's an example of something I was thinking, right? Because not everybody has the skills to throw together a display ad quickly, right? So here's one thing that AI might give you. And you can very clearly see this as AI just because AI is not always good with creating these words. Some of the stuff, I think the client's name isn't even correct on this one. But it was able to come up with June special. Now, this is great as an example, right? When you look at this, you're like, okay, I see what they're thinking. However, my other opinion on this ad is I think this almost creates an unrealistic expectation of what an ad might look like, just because I don't think I've ever seen a display ad that looks like this. It's very contrasty. It has a lot of textures going on. There's just a lot of elements to this, right? When again we're going back and talking about just legibility and just making the message really clear. So why that you might this like looks artistic, I don't think it's actually a very good example. But maybe you're just trying to get across like this is what I want the headline to look like and I want some text down here. That's great. Now I just experimented in ChatGPT this morning, and similar to that emergency vet ad we put together for the HTML, I was just like, hey, make me an ad for a 24/7 vet, which apparently ChatGPT is actually much better at doing this than maybe some image generators are, and it was able to put together this. And to me, this could be super helpful because when you use ChatGPT and it asks you, hey, what's the name of the client? What's their phone number? What's a couple details about it? And it can actually create real words and lay them out in a way on this design. So you could send us this and be very clear in what you're asking for. And then we can look at this and digest it and adapt it with a little bit more thought than ChatGPT did, right? This is very generic, but it's clear, right? So that's just a way to use AI in a good way, and we're not risking stealing from anybody accidentally, because that's ultimately what we want to avoid. Nobody likes stealing. So
Fantastic. Thank you, Dylan. We just want to kind of run through the rest of this very briefly because we are kind of running out of time, but I will mention really quickly, one thing we want to go over is the importance of communication. If we have a question about a submission, we will reach out to you. We are very communicative. So if you're in a hurry to get your digitals, please keep in mind that your quick response will help us get everything done faster. You're always welcome to reach out to support@cumuluscreativeconcierge.com or give us a call at 800-391-6044 to reach the project manager on duty. Danielle, if you would, let's go ahead and talk about the tool that's making life easier for all of our reps and saving us some serious time, our new digital gallery.
Okay, so all you have to do is go to the CCC website and right up here, digital gallery, and you will see all sorts of examples for different companies. So this can make presenting easier, especially if you just need a quick spec to create some inspiration. It saves time. We can create it quicker. The turnaround time's quick. We can do simple updates like to a logo or a headline or even colors, and we can get that back to you really quickly. Trace is a great example of this, someone who utilizes it a lot. And if you want to do this, repurpose an existing ad. When you submit for a campaign, just mention the ID number, or you can mention the title in the gallery image, and then we can literally pull the layout or the template and update it for you based on your company and get it back to you way quicker than starting completely from scratch. So this is a great tool and we're going to keep adding to it. So just keep an eye out. And if you need inspiration, it's a good place to look.
Awesome. Thank you, Danielle. So before we wrap it up, just a couple of important housekeeping items and things to keep in mind. All requests for digital creative must be submitted as separate orders. This helps streamline the workflow, ensures that every request is getting the attention it deserves. It also makes revisions faster and easier for our team and for you. It minimizes mistakes, which ensures that you get your items back correct and as quickly as possible. So for example, if you need 6 banner designs, you're going to submit 6 total orders. If you need 3 videos made in addition to those banners, you will submit 3 more orders for video. Video and banner are submitted separately. And as all of you know, audio can be turned around very, very quickly. Our team of expert producers is ready to help Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. However, there is an important difference with digital. Digitals can be much more time consuming, which is why we ask for 3 to 4 business days for completion. So once an ad is completed, what happens is the team sends you a 300 by 250 for review with watermarks. Once you receive it, you have the option to approve or revise it in the portal. Once that is approved, the team creates all the requested sizes and delivers back typically within 1 business day. The same turnaround applies to revisions. When we get your revision request, we schedule it for return typically within 1 business day. Now, once you have approved a digital campaign, no further revisions can be made. This policy protects our timelines and ensures that we can keep all projects moving forward efficiently. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get a revision to a finished product. It just means we require a new order to be submitted. So once we receive your new order for a revision to a finalized project, we do schedule it for return on the same timeline as a regular revision within 1 business day. We do this to keep our projects organized and to maintain our quick turnarounds on revisions. Entering a new submission will also help you stay organized because everything is delivered to your My Account so you can retrieve it at any time. So it does make it easier to parse through. So instead of having, 3 or 4 final versions posted to the same order, the new files will go to the new order so you don't have to do nearly as much digging. If you have a large request, let's say you're putting through for 4 videos and 8 banners, we can absolutely handle it, but please be aware it might take slightly longer to receive everything back, just depending on how we assign the projects out to our team. We want to maintain consistency for you, so for these larger or more complex projects, please factor in additional time and be mindful of realistic turnaround expectations. So thank you again for working so closely with us. When we collaborate well, the results do speak for themselves.